Now, yesterday we know that Trump was tweeting out about Google, how they're manipulating their search results, and we need to do something about it. And Q came on and posted that we need to regulate the social media platforms. And I just want to remind everyone that there is a petition on the whitehouse.gov site, and this is a request to Congress to pass a law prohibiting the social media tech giants from banning and censoring speech, free speech, on the internet. So it needs 100,000 signatures by September 27, 2018 to get a response from the White House. As of right now, there are around 20,880 signatures, and we need about 80,000 more. I just rounded it up. So go to the link, which is located on the X22 Report site, or if you're on YouTube, go to the link at the bottom of this video, and it will bring it right over to the petition, and you can sign it if you want free speech on social media sites, allowing everyone to speak freely. And we know that the deep state, they don't want people out there telling the truth because it goes against their narrative. So what they need to do is they need to ban people. They bring down channels. They shadow ban. They do whatever they possibly can to hide those people that have a completely different narrative, which is the truth. They don't want that because the truth will stand up to anything. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what propaganda you put out there, the truth will always stand tall, and they don't like that. So go over to the petition.whitehouse.gov and sign the petition. Now, this whole thing with the Steele dossier and Bruce Orr is getting crazier and crazier by the minute. Now, former MI6 agent Christopher Steele, the author of the Steele dossier, which is completely unverified, completely made up, worked as a subcontractor for Russian billionaire and aluminum magnate Oleg Deripaska. At the same time, he was creating the Steele dossier that alleged Trump was colluding with Russia. So Steele's firm, Orbis Business Intelligence, was hired by a law firm working for Deripaska in 2012, marking the beginning of a relationship which extended at least throughout 2016. Now, Steele was tasked with researching a business rival of Deripaska. However, Steele's work for the Russian billionaire evolved to the point where the former British spy was interfacing with the Obama administration on his behalf. To that end, Steele and twice demoted Department of Justice official Bruce Orr communicated extensively about the Russian oligarch as recently as February 2016, which included efforts to obtain a visa for Deripaska to attend an Asian-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting with the U.S. Deripaska is now banned from the United States as one of several Russians sanctioned in April in response to alleged 2016 election meddling. So we see at this point that individuals were colluding with Russians who were sanctioned, and it was completely against the law to do so. So we have colluding, we have breaking the law because the U.S. placed sanctions on this individual, and it looks like Christopher Steele was doing business with this individual, and we could see at this point that this entire case is going to be blown wide open. And we're going to get a little bit more into that a little bit later with Q's posts, and we're going to go through quite a few of these. But first, let's go to many of the countries where the deep state wanted to have regime change or had regime change in these countries. And when the deep state was involved in these countries, we've never seen peace in any of these countries. Now we're starting to see peace. Now we're starting to see an improvement once the deep state is being removed from all these different areas. We see the South Sudanese rebels, they're going to be signing the latest draft of a comprehensive peace deal with the government of Sudan, and this agreement is intended to end years of civil war in the Sudan area. And we can see at this time that this is not the only country. We have Syria, we have Libya, we have Lebanon, we have Iraq, we have Ukraine. I mean, these are, and there's many other areas, but these are the few of the areas where they had regime change or tried to have regime change, and there's been constant war, nonstop, because they were trying to keep the petrodollar alive long enough so they could have their war and they can move us to their new system. We see strange things are happening out in Iran. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, on Wednesday cast doubt on the ability of European countries to save Iran's 2015 nuclear accord with world powers. And it looks like that the nuclear accord, according to Khamenei, is just a means, not a goal. And if we come to this conclusion, then it does not deserve our national interest. We can abandon it. Now, this is very interesting, because if we go back to Trump's tweets, Trump said he's expecting a phone call from Iran. And already there's an announcement where they might abandon the nuclear deal because they're saying that Europe can't help them with it. And we knew this because the deal was made with Obama, and this is why we saw the pallets of cash move into this area, and this was like a payoff to certain areas. And we see at this point, Europe is not going to take up the slack. And what is happening here is they're going to make a new deal with Trump. And it looks like it's already starting. Out in Syria, we see the Syrian army. They've destroyed a Free Syrian Army headquarters in northern Hama. We also see Saudi Arabia right now is going to support Russia's efforts on a settlement in Syria. Now, this is very interesting because we know there's secret talks going on behind the scenes with Assad, Putin, and many others to have peace in this area, just like in Afghanistan, just like in North Korea, and the same thing's happening in Syria. Russia, right now, as we know, they're reporting that in Idlib, that the White Helmets, they are assisting the terrorist groups, and remember, the White Helmets are also a terrorist group. They're assisting to stage a chemical weapon provocation to blame the Syrian government. Russia came out and said that the chemicals were delivered to an arms depot used by militant groups Al-Sham, accompanied by 8 members of the White Helmet organization. They said the cargo was met by 2 high-ranking Al-Sham commanders, and they took the load. They put it in an unmarked plastic barrel. They transported it to another militant base in southern Idlib in order to stage the use of chemical weapons, and then, of course, then blame Assad. And they see all of this happening. They have the intel. Now, again, this is being transferred over to the U.S. They know exactly what's going on. They know that this is being staged. And again, they're going to use this to destroy the last remaining terrorist infrastructures, their chemical factories. And of course, what they're going to use here is chlorine gas. They're not going to be using sarin gas. So we can see that everything is being set up and prepared, because what we're seeing on many fronts right now is that everything is starting to break down for the deep state. Think about it. North Korea, a peace deal was made. Yes, I know that Trump called off the meeting with Pompeo. This was done on purpose to make Trump seem very, very weak. There's a chemical attack going to happen in Syria. This is going to allow Trump to fire missiles into this area and destroy the last remaining deep state paid mercenary army and their infrastructure and everything else. And then what's going to happen on after that is we're going to see UN peace talks along with Syria, Russia, and other countries, and the troops are going to leave Syria because they're going to push forward a political process. And here in the U.S., the truth is going to come out with what is happening with Clinton, with the Steele dossier, with Uranium One, the emails, Obama, you name it, it's all going to come out. So let's start off with Q's posts. post 1954. We're going to start with that one. And Q says, do not force those not yet ready. The fake news narrative, make-believe, has been ingrained for a long time. Do not isolate yourself within your own family. Dark to light. Truth will shine. Impossible to defend. Impossible to ignore. Stay strong. You are not alone. Patriots all. And people are becoming, anxious now. They're like, you know what? Let's just have the truth come out. Let's just do it. See, the difference is you already know the truth. You've been following all of this for a very long time. I mean, I've been following this myself for a very long time. But you have to remember, those people who are sleeping, who don't want to accept the truth, who are still living in that period of time where whatever the mainstream media tells you, that's the truth, they're still stuck in the matrix. They're not ready to come out of the matrix just yet. And you can't force people to do these things. I mean, if you listen to the Matrix or any of the other type of sayings, I can open the door, I can show you the door, but I can't make you walk through it. You have to walk through it on your own. Just like, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink the water. You can tell your family members these things, but you can't force them. What you can do is when the truth starts to come out, you can be supportive. Remember, Q is doing all of this to give whoever's going to listen knowledge. Those people can tell their friends, their family, and break it down in such a way that they will believe. Why can friends and family do this? Because friends and family will trust you. They'll start to listen, and they'll say, I knew this because I researched it. I know this because I've been doing this for quite a while. And of course, they're going to say, why haven't you told me? Because you wouldn't have believed at that point in time. You weren't ready. And all this that we're seeing now, all the tweets from Trump, this is all in preparation. Remember that. Let's move on to post 1955. Q put up a tweet, and it says, Dimitrios Paragoutsis, I don't know if I pronounced that right, was a Columbiner. He had the same button that Dylan Klebold wore on his shoe during the Columbine massacre. Lots of Columbiners wear this button. And under that, it says, Breaking Santa Fe High School Killer Wore Antifa and Columbine Hammer and Sickle. It's always been out in the open. You just have to look. You must stay together. Together you are strong. Symbolism is going to be their end. Post 1956 repeated everything that was in 1955 and said, buy a history book published 20 years ago. Buy a history book published 10 years ago. Buy a history book published this year. Compare. Focus on World War I, World War II. Something alarming will be discovered. And when you start to look at the history books and you start to look, you can see that they changed a lot of things over time. And many Annans looked at different history books and they noticed that the latest history books talk about open borders, that they're okay because if you have open borders, you're not a racist. They want to end the Electoral College, so the globalists will always be in control. They want you to be scared in schools from school shootings. And they want you to hide in corners. They want you to think that you can ban hate speech. And if you use any type of speech to question the government, it's considered hate. Or if you use any type of speech to counter the narrative of the mainstream media, it is hate. If you look at some of the Common Core textbooks, you can see they were starting to change the Second Amendment. One of the Common Core books that was a textbook that was approved, the Second Amendment reads as follows. The people have the right to keep and bear arms in a state militia. That's not the Second Amendment. Another book says the Second Amendment grants citizens the right to bear arms as a member of a militia of citizen soldiers. Now, of course, what they're saying here is they're making it easier for the student to understand the Second Amendment. Well, if you read the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Bear is to carry. Arms is any type of weapon. The founding fathers did this on purpose. They didn't put the right to carry a gun, a right to carry a pistol, to bear arms, arms that are equal to the military. And the last part, comma, shall not be infringed. And through this, people were being taught to trust CNN and the rest of the mainstream media. So you could see they were preparing the U.S. for the next phase. And again, they thought Hillary Rodham Clinton was going to win. And this was what they were preparing for. Post 1957, Q put up, there is a reason why we continue to highlight this speech. And this is the speech where Trump is saying, we're going to take control. We're going to go after those deep state operatives. We're going to go after Clinton. We're going to clean up the swamp. And Q went on to say, listen carefully, truth and honesty, part 2, rally, brackets bold, red October, mouthpieces do not think or speak for themselves, Q. Post 1958. Q put up a post of 809, clowns revealed in China, other, 2010, brackets, kill order 187, sold intel, Hillary Rodham Clinton open source server, missing emails, CrowdStrike, granted access, betrayed, only the tip, this will be made public soon. Down below that says trending non-mainstream media, China hacked Hillary Rodham Clinton's server, false, access was granted. You have more than you know. Now, in the olden days, when you were going to pass intel off to a foreign government, you'd like sit on a park bench, you mark a little X with chalk, you leave a package, they come and they pick it up, and you would transfer the information over to the foreign government. In today's technological world, it's a little different. You set up a server, you put no security on it whatsoever, you allow a program to run to send emails off, and you allow foreign governments to access the server. This way you can say, I wasn't selling anything. Then the payments are made through your foundation. Say, no, that was a foundation payment to my campaign. It wasn't for the information. They figured out a way on how to get around all of this. And what is all this called? It's called treason. Post 1959, Q put up a Twitter feed, and it says, Richard, pro tip, look at CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike managed the infiltration program based on payments to the Clinton Foundation. Put up another link, Washington Post, says Clinton Foundation, McAuliffe donor caught up in Chinese cash for votes scandal. The more you know. Post 1960. And Anon put up, I am isolated with my husband, and thank God our dogs. To our families, we can't even mention the president's name. So we don't, but it hurts so much. We will stay strong. We try not to become bitter and angry. We are prepared to help and to answer when the time comes. I know they need us then more than ever, especially my oldest, because she studied so hard to get her job in your country, in CV. I know for sure that she is not a liberal, brainwashed person. My other baby is an autist, and she asked me questions over the news coverage and why they all tell the same story. Please, Q, I must say this. You, the team, and POTUS are so very loved by us. God bless you from the Netherlands. Q wrote, you are not alone, patriot. You are part of history. Never in our history has this been attempted. God bless you and your family. Stay strong. Stay the course. Where we go one, we go all. Post 1961. Q says, relevant yes to the Hillary Rodham Clinton server sweepstakes giveaway. And put up a link of a New York Times article, China CIA spies espionage. So the article says, killing CIA informants, China crippled U.S. spying operations. And the article reads, the Chinese government systematically dismantled CIA spying operations in the country starting in 2010, killing or imprisoning more than a dozen sources over 2 years and crippling intelligence gathering there for years afterwards. Current and former American officials describe the intelligence breach as one of the worst in decades. It set off a scramble in Washington's intelligence and law enforcement agencies to obtain the fallout, but investigators were bitterly divided over the cause. Some were convinced that a mole within the CIA had betrayed the United States. Others believed that the Chinese hacked the covert system the CIA used to communicate with its foreign sources. Years later, that debate remains unresolved. So who's the mole? Clinton. Clinton betrayed the United States. It's all starting to come out. Post-1962. Q put up a Fox News link. Feinstein was mortified by FBI allegation that staffer was a spy for China. Q said, mortified? ? What is the purpose of a bridge? Well, first of all, she was mortified. I mean, she kind of knew this. The FBI told her about it. She was on the Senate Intelligence Committee. I mean, the chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee didn't know that this individual was a spy. Maybe she shouldn't be chairwoman. Q says define bridge. Well, bridge is a structure carrying a road, path, railroad, or canal across a river, ravine, road, railroad, or other obstacle. Spy equals bridge to China. A bridge is connected to both sides, and transmission works both ways. A bridge is built to connect 2 points by spanning a physical obstacle that would otherwise be perilous to cross. I think Q is saying the spy was put there with full knowledge of both DS governments as a liaison to provide China pay-for-play access. Let's move on to post-1963. Q says, Patriot, a little perspective. Patriots are dying to defend this great country and freedom she provides. Children are being kidnapped, tortured, raped, and sacrificed in the name of pure evil. Stay the course. We are fighting a deeply entrenched enemy. Think Lisa Barsoomian. Smile. 2018 will be glorious. So, who is Lisa Barsoomian again? Well, she's the spouse of Rod Rosenstein, and she is a U.S. attorney that graduated from Georgetown Law, is a protege of James Comey and Robert Mueller. Barsoomian, with her boss, R. Craig Lawrence, represented Bill Clinton in 1988. Lawrence also represented Robert Mueller 3 times, James Comey 5 times, Barack Obama 45 times, Kathleen Sebelius 56 times, Bill Clinton 40 times, Hillary Clinton 17 times. Between 1998 and 2017, Barsoomian herself represented the FBI at least 5 times. So we see what is happening here. She's part of the whole game here. Post-1964. And Anon put up, Amen Q. For those of us who have stayed the course for 20-plus years, we have gone alone. We have stood firm in the defense of the truth, yet many of us have very few friends and couldn't do much in the real world. The penalties for speaking up for truth have been severe for decades, and I've lived life in the shadows. It wasn't worth speaking out until now. Thank you, Q. Q responded, the world is now united. History books, fake news suppression creates a false reality. This movement is bigger than you can imagine. Silent majority, no more. Q. Moving on to post-1965. And Annan put up, will be glorious? In my humble opinion, sir, it already is. Q put up, in our opinion, until those responsible are dead and or suffering, it shall remain will be Q. Post 1966. And Anon put up, that's great, but where's the arrests? Q put up, patriots fight, read, comprehend, use logic. Q. Everything is being prepared right now. Post 1967. And Anon put up, Q. So what's up with Assange? Q said, do you remember that our enemies are also monitoring this board? See above, reflect, use logic. A lot of the stuff that Q does put up here is for the other side. Post 1968. And Anon put up a picture, a meme of tanks with lightning. Where we go one, we go all. Stay the course and trust the plan. Under it, it says, boss, it sure was lonely before you came along. Thank you guys for taking these risks and concocting the plan. We are all in this together, and we are all right here for this purpose. Love you guys. Q responded, no one person is above another. Why does the fake news media put so much time, energy, effort into attacking a so-called conspiracy? Because it's the truth. Those who are attacked the most are the biggest threat. Logic wins every single time. Post 1969, and Anon put up, hey Q, does P equal pacer? When do we start seeing the pain? Where we go one, we go all. MAGA. Post 1970. And Anon put up, treason. Thank you for selling all of our secrets to the highest bidder, Hillary. She should be locked up. Q responded, you didn't think military planes were falling out of the skies all within a short period of time just by chance, did you? Outside of the standard deviation. Now, when I read this post, I was thinking of a bigger picture, not just pay to play and all that kind of stuff. Because you have to remember what the deep state, the central banks, were planning to do. They knew their system was dying. They knew it couldn't go on for much longer. And eventually we were going to enter a war. And many people believe that if Clinton was in office, we would be in a war already. Now, just follow me on this, on what they were planning. And when you start to put all the pieces together, you can see that it's not just about selling secrets. Now, China made backdoors into our military electronics. Between China and the cabal, they're hacking into all the aircraft, right? This is why planes are falling out of the sky. They're designing aircraft just like the U.S. And they can also hack consumer aircrafts too. Let's go back to 1913, when the Fed was established. Then, after World War II, the central bankers created the IMF on December 27, 1945, Bretton Woods. In 1930, on May 17th, they created the Bank of International Settlements, the bank of all banks. The ECB was created on June 1st, 1998. The World Trade Organization was created on January 1st, 1995. So if we look throughout this time, the central bankers were slowly creating everything to control the world. Now, during this period, when we came off the gold standard in 1971, they started to make preparations to move everything away from the United States, out of the United States, like manufacturing. But they knew they had plenty of time, so it didn't start in the 70s. But in the 80s, moving into the 90s, we saw manufacturing being moved out of the United States and into China and other countries. Why? Because the U.S. economy was breaking down. The global economy was starting to break down. A lot of debt was being added. Now, 2001, when we had 9/11, allowed the deep state, the central bankers, to go into other countries to keep the system propped up longer. Now remember, these countries in the Middle East, they wanted to trade their oil not using the dollar. Now, if they did that back in 2001, the system would have imploded. They couldn't let this happen. And this is why General Wesley Clark came out and said, listen, we're going to be going to all these countries. And we're going to have regime change in each and every one of them and put the dollar back in circulation in these countries, and everyone would have to pay for oil using the dollar. That's why this was done. This is why 9/11 was done. And they started to take away our rights because they were preparing for a one world government, preparing to move this system someplace else. So we have regime changes in the Middle East to keep countries using the dollar. 2008, they needed the breakdown of the entire economic system. And this was done on purpose because they needed the central bank to start creating currency like there was no tomorrow. That's why during Obama's reign, from 2008 to 2016, the United States added $8 trillion in 8 years. I mean, we added $10 trillion from 1913 all the way up to 2008. And from 2008 to 2016, we added another $8 trillion. I mean, think about it. It took us 95 years to add $10 trillion. Now we have Clinton and others selling tech to other countries to bring their military up to the United States level and to allow them access to our military assets. Why? Why would they do this? Because they were using propaganda to demonize Russia and China because we were going to go to war. And you couldn't let these countries not have the same military assets as the United States. Now, Russia was already advanced, but they wanted to bring China up to a certain level, and they could bring them up to this level and also allow them access to planes where they could bring them down. Why? Because they were going to start a war, and the U.S. was going to lose that war. This was all planned out. Once the war was over and there was no manufacturing in the United States, where would all the manufacturing be? China. And everything would be moved over there. I mean, think about what they were doing here. This is the big picture. The system then would be restarted. The population would be reduced. The United States would be brought down to a third world level. They'd have the TPP. They'd have court systems above each and every government. And they would have a one world government. This was their entire plan. Well, now the plan is scrapped. Let's move on to post-1971. Q put up Sarah Carter about Bruce Orr, FBI knew about bias before getting a FISA on Carter page. And Q says, bigger than Watergate, biggest scandal in U.S. history, crickets, fake news, bold, brackets, desperate to shelter, define shelter, a place giving temporary protection from bad weather or danger. Yes, a shelter protects you from bad weather. It also protects you from what is known as a storm. So fake news is guilty of sheltering criminals, aiding and abetting all these individuals. Post-1972. Are you watching Hannity? Did you hear what the Texas congressman just stated? Huber. Brackets, bold, or Q. Congressman Radcliffe said Huber was looking into FISA abuses, so that may indicate they are farther down the path than we thought. As far as we've been told, the IG was working on a report on the FISA process abuses. And we've heard it today that Orr answered most of not all the questions from Congress. So it appears he's cut a deal or is willing to, like Lisa Page. Let's move on to post-1973. Q put up, if the fake Steele dossier constituted the bulk of the facts submitted to the FISC to obtain FISA warrant against POTUS, dossier dismissed as fake, baseless. If Mueller was appointed as SC, special counsel, based on the dossier, and the dossier was proven to be fake disinformation, and the dossier was proven to be the bulk of information submitted to the FICS in order to obtain the warrants, FISA signers premeditated, neglected to disclose the actual facts, lied to, then how is Mueller still the special counsel? Bruce Orr never called to testify. Mueller investigated Russia collusion. Why would Mueller not contact Bruce Orr? Bruce Orr was the back channel between FBI, Department of Justice, and Steele. Why wouldn't Mueller seek testimony? Mueller impeach POTUS operation. If impeachment is the goal via retake House midterms, does it still not require a 2-3 vote in the Senate? What will the 20 FISA fourth warrant disclose? Trust the plan. Huber has everything. Let's move on to post 1974. Put up Donald Trump Twitter. What are the odds that the FBI and the Department of Justice are right on top of this? Q. So it looks like Q is confirming all of this, that they know everything. Post 1975. Q put up a couple of links here. And this is March 15th, 2018. Dear Attorney General Sessions and Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, as you know, the Department of Justice Inspector General currently is reviewing the department's and the Federal Bureau of Investigation's handling of the Clinton email investigation. Recently, the Attorney General requested that he also review questions about the department and the FBI's actions in seeking a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act FISA warrant against former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. So this is basically telling us what they are doing. And Q says, brackets in bold, today, Broussard testimony. And Q put up another link, and this is a document, a letter to the Inspector General and Huber reviewing all of this. And put up another link from Breitbart, Turley Sessions using Utah federal prosecutors much better, Trump second special counsel. What I'm getting out of all this is Huber is doing all the investigation, Sessions is sitting back, and Trump and Sessions are distracting from everything. Post 1976. Q put a link to Trump's Twitter feed, and the tweet reads, Hillary Clinton's emails, many of which are classified information, got hacked by China. Next move better be by the FBI and Department of Justice, or after all of their other missteps, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, or FISA dirty dossier, their credibility will be forever gone. Again, showing that Trump is laying the groundwork, foreshadowing what is coming, and POTUS is tweeting all this out, and then 18 minutes later, Q posts, big statement, what's coming, then 15 minutes later, POTUS tweets, Martha McSally, running in the Arizona primary for U.S. Senate, was endorsed by rejected Senator Jeff Flake and turned it down. A first. Now Martha, a great U.S. military fighter jet pilot, a highly respected member of Congress, wins big. Congratulations, and on to November. Big statement, wins big. What's coming, wins big. Or mirrored, what's coming, big wins. Now, think about it. Trump has been tweeting out about Hillary Clinton's emails, how the FBI didn't look at them. There are thousands that they didn't even look at, and they didn't inspect the servers. He called out everyone, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and the rest. Think about what Huber and Horowitz have been doing. They've been investigating. And Sessions did this right off the bat, got them going on this. If you notice, there's no leaks. There's nothing. Why? Because first of all, they're keeping it tight, and timing is everything. They don't want them to know what's about to hit. 1977. Q repeated everything that said big statement, and under it put, why is POTUS pushing the FBI and Department of Justice on this issue? What if access to the servers was deliberate? What if this is known within the intelligence community? What if this is known within the FBI and Department of Justice? If known, why no action? How might this discredit the FBI's investigation into Clinton's emails? How might this open the door to Weiner, Huma, and Clinton? Why was the information on Weiner's laptop in the first place? D5Q. Let's take the first one. Why is POTUS pushing the FBI and Department of Justice on this issue? Checkmate. He has all the information. He knows. He's toying with them. He's also foreshadowing. What if access to the server was deliberate? And as we know, it was deliberate, because we know there's a piece of software running on there sending the emails out real time. And this way, Clinton could say, well, I didn't know, it was hacked. I wasn't doing anything. What if this is known within the intelligence community? Clinton kill list. If known, why no action? Clinton kill list. How might this discredit the FBI's investigation into Clinton's emails? Because they were never deleted. Everyone has copies and backups. How might this open the door to Weiner, Huma, and Clinton? Someone else could release the info. Maybe Assange. Logical thinking. Julian Assange not only saw this, but who has accessing it from the beginning. That's why he had to be stopped at all costs. And this is why he's been on the move, and we could see that they're protecting him. Why was the information on Weiner's laptop in the first place? Clearinghouse, D5, Avalanche, I think D5 is 45, Avalanche, Q, boom. Post 1978, Q put everything from 1977. Down below it says justice.gov file, download, reconcile, 1 equals 1, 1 equals 0, evidence of an ongoing investigation. He's referring to a very simple concept in binary logic. 1 and 1 is a true statement. 1 equals 0 is a false statement. He's asking, which is it, true or false? More specifically, and this is a theme with Q, he's referring to logic chains. Logic implies one event based on another event, and so forth into a chain. These only apply to statements that can be true or false. There's a connection here where he's essentially saying only one of the truth values in regards to the existence is the only one that logically transitions to incriminating Weiner, Huma, and Clinton. For those not used to format logic, consider the following chain. If I feed a puppy, he will be happy. He will smile. If you know I fed a puppy, this is true, you see him smiling, also true. Assuming the statements are logically sound themselves, then you can probably deduce the puppy is happy, which is true. Q is essentially doing this with longer chains of logic branching across several divisions. He's reminding us in this post that every statement only has one truth value, and that logically we can deduce which one it is. Post 1979. Q put everything up from 1978 and said error made, swap of within. So evidence in an ongoing investigation, not evidence of an ongoing investigation. Then he says then Q says long day, Q. Post 1980. Q put up everything from a previous post, and I believe this previous post was post 1977. And below that, Q put up, what if a paper trail exists? PDB via no such agency. Hussein made aware with no action. Why did POTUS refuse select PDBs during transition? Who knew? Threat assessment. Admiral Rogers, Flynn. Why did Hussein, Hillary Clinton, admin staff use private emails to communicate? Was Clinton the only one to use unsecured servers? If access was granted, Clinton private server, can you assume access was granted? House server, A1. A1, Pakistani intelligence. A1 free? Huma, Muslim Brotherhood, matters of national security. So let's take a look at this. What if paper trails exist? PDB via no such agency. PDB is Presidential Daily Briefing. No such agency is the National Security Agency. NSA feeds the information for the daily brief, and there's a paper trail of that correspondence. Hussein made aware with no action. Obama was made aware of the high levels of the FBI, Department of Justice, NSA corruption, but did nothing to stop it. It implicates him directly. Due to the paper trail, it is provable evidence that he was complicit. Why did POTUS refuse select PDBs during transition? Who knew? Threat assessment, Admiral Rogers, Flynn. This implies that while Trump was the president-elect, November 9th, 2016, January 2017, he skipped out on hearings, certain daily briefings, as if someone told him they would be full of intentional disinformation. Q further goes on to hint that it was Admiral Rogers, head of the NSA, and General Flynn, former intelligence head, who told him. This further is easy to believe, given stories that Rogers was one that let Trump know that Trump Tower was wired, being spied on, prompting the Trump transition team to move. Why did Hussein, Clinton admin staff, use private emails to communicate? Because they were trying not to leave a paper trail accessible by their overseers and or the Freedom of Information Act requests. Was Clinton the only one to use unsecured servers? No, absolutely not. Almost all of her staff and Obama, the entire cabinet, had email addresses on the Clinton email servers. If access was granted, RE, Clinton private server, can you assume access was granted to House servers, A1? This is implying that, following the logic that we know that the Clinton email servers was used to transfer state access and secrets to China and other foreign powers, we can assume that other compromised servers were used for similar purposes as well, specifically referring to the missing House Democratic Caucus server that Imran Awan used, stole, or lost. A1 Pakistani intelligence. Did A1 give access to Pakistani intelligence via the House Democratic Caucus server? A1 free. Is A1 free? He was recently given a deal to not be prosecuted for any nonviolent crimes after pleading guilty to bank fraud and receiving an extremely light sentencing for someone who tried to flee the country. Huma, Muslim Brotherhood. Did Huma Abedin use Clinton email servers to send information to the Muslim Brotherhood? Most likely. Matters of national security. These crimes are so treasonous they actually put our national security at risk, as noted by Q, have actually led to several agents and operations being compromised. Now, we can see that all of this is going to be coming out into the open. And what Q is doing right now is allowing everyone to get the information ahead of time. Because once this goes live and people start to hear it, and like we said in the beginning, you are going to have to explain it to everyone, because a lot of people are going to reject. It's going to be very difficult, and people are going to have a tough time with it. Actually, it's going to be a very sad time in our country. Why? Because people are going to learn the truth, and people are going to be angry, pissed off that they were lied to all this time. But as we move forward,